Hi, my name is Sam. I'm the Central Regional Director for the Pennsylvania College Democrats, as well as being on the executive board for the Dickinson College Democrats. Now, at Dickinson College, I'm a political science student, which means I'm interested in all types of politics, including local politics. And today, I'm here with Rachel James, who's the newly elected chair for the Carlisle Area Democrats. And I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, Sam. I appreciate it.
So I guess I'm just wondering, what brought you to Carlisle?
So that's a great question. I'm actually from a very small town in rural Texas. I'm talking like one stoplight town. And I moved to Carlisle to attend law school over at Penn State Dickinson Law. And quite frankly, I fell in love with the area and the community. So after I graduated, I decided to stay.
And so what really brought you then to the kind of democratic political scene within the town?
Right. So I've always been kind of a political science nerd. I think you have to be, right, to be interested in this stuff. And so around my last year of law school, I started to have time to be able to volunteer and get connected more with my community. And I kind of looked at some of the neighboring organizations, and the Carlisle Area Democratic Committee really just aligned most with my values and my goals, especially serving at such a local level. I really believe that true change begins within your own community and, at your own dinner tables. And the Carlisle Area Democrats are focused here in making a change in Carlisle. That really resonated with me.
And what I'm wondering is, a lot of young people kind of say it's hard to break into these circles, it's kind of hard to get involved in this. Mm-hmm. So what drove you as a young person to want to do this?
Right, and it can be hard. Like, I'm not going to discount that. And it can be intimidating, especially kind of in a deeply entrenched political scene. I will say that the Carlisle Area Dems have welcomed me with open arms, which has really made this whole process very easy. But I also think that young people, especially here in Carlisle, right, we have the law school, we have the college, and we just also have a vibrant downtown community, have an obligation to kind of show up for your community, especially right now. It's clear that what we need to be doing is energizing our base, getting new voices and perspectives involved, right? So really reaching out and finding organizations, whether it's the Carlisle Area Dems or a very similar affiliated group, where you can serve and spend kind of your time and energy right now.
And I guess, so you being elected chair means you spend a lot of time with the Carlisle Area Dems. And what's your favorite part about it?
So I'll give two answers, really. Of course, I think the clear answer is that there's something to be said about a community of like-minded individuals all working towards the same goal. But then second, I really enjoy the opportunity that Carlisle Area Dems give me to be kind of a conduit in the community, right? Because we're so plugged in here in Carlisle, it really lets me know about events I otherwise wouldn't have, and lets me connect with community members and organizations that otherwise I really wouldn't have the opportunity to.
And I'm curious, with those kind of that community, has this also helped your outside of the political scene community, just your neighbors, your friends?
Yeah, definitely. So I was pretty involved in Carlisle before, but even just within working in my capacity with the Carlisle Area Dems and the volunteer stuff we do there, it's given me an opportunity to be more connected with organizations like Hope Station and the Imani Fest and Pride, and just a bunch of things we've collaborated with. For example, last year we did a board game event with the Carlisle Area Pride Group. And so those kind of opportunities have really helped me, not only just kind of in a political scene, but those are things like I come back to and am a part of outside of, in my own personal capacity.
And what kind of change do you think the Carlisle Area Dems can make in the overall community? How do you think it can help your neighbors and the people you've spent so much time with?
Right. So I guess first things first, which is that Carlisle tends to run Democrat already. So we're already kind of starting from a great point. So for me, and kind of some of my goals and missions here with Carlisle Dems are, how can we capitalize on that pre-existing momentum? So something I'm very interested in is community service and community outreach. It's really difficult to expect voter turnout and voter engagement if you're not showing up for that community, right? People show up for those who serve them. So working on servicing that community and finding those marginalized areas that need help, and using our pre-existing funding and momentum and volunteer base to serve that community is something I'm really interested in. And then of course, with that, because Carlisle is kind of a pre-established area, we can use our time, energy, and resources to serve not only Carlisle, making sure that we're protecting our borough council or school boards, row offices, etc., but also help mobilize not only young energy and new voices, but do the same for our surrounding community.
And how do you think that you can better serve the community? What have you been hearing from the community that they need more from you guys?
Yeah. So I think a big thing that the Carlisle area Democrats should be doing and are responsible for doing is voter education. And when I say that, I mean from step 1 to step 80. So explaining to people, how do you register to vote, and getting more voter registration, which, like I said, isn't going to happen by sitting in a booth and being like, hey, register to vote. It's going to be happening by showing up to those communities that need help, showing up to organizations, and really connecting on a deeper level with those people. So getting people to register to vote, explaining kind of basic civic 101. And that's something we're really interested in doing more, especially as the general comes around. And then informing voters of the candidates we have on the slate. What are their positions? Who's running against who? We have a retention election for judge coming up. A lot of people don't know what that is, right? And they don't know whether or not they should be voting yes, or what that even looks like. We have a responsibility to be explaining that stuff. And then from there, that's step 0 through 10. It's also the education of how can you get involved and where do your talents fit in the community, and where can you continue pushing for democratic ideals. And so then once you've connected that dot, even pushing it further and getting them actually enriched in the organization and in the community.
And how do you think that you can better do that? What steps do you think needs to be kind of game 1, day 1, first steps to take to start getting people more engaged civically?
Something we've actively been working on is what I like to call like a community satisfaction survey, which is that we've been working on really just asking people like, hey, what are the top 5 things that need to change in Carlisle, or that you would like to see done in your community? Once we have that information about what people actually need and care about in Carlisle, we're going to take that, utilize it, and show up to those areas in need and discuss it and talk about what those people would like to see done, right? I think that's a step 1 of like, how do you actually get people hooked in, right? Is actually talk about what they care about.
What do you think you need to do to get people back to being engaged in their community?
There are a lot of marginalized groups here. We have a lot of lower income people struggling with affordable housing. Infrastructure is a hot button issue. You can talk to anybody and they're going to have opinions on the road, I promise you. And I think as we saw recently with a lot of the summer storms, stormwater management, flooding, the bare basics of how people live and actively participate in a community, are things that actively need work in progress and that we can assist on, not only in terms of connecting people to resources if they're, for example, indigent or need help or immigration services, etc., but also help advocate that in our candidates and in our recruitment and in our, process of supporting candidates that align with those values and those needs.
So we have a huge election coming up in 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And what is Carlisle Area Dem's plan to get people out there, engaged, and ready to go vote?
I think it's information, energy, mobilization. And I don't just mean that as buzzwords. I mean, we have a responsibility to tell people what's up, what's on the ballot, how to get there. We have a responsibility to meet people where they're at, get them energized, get them informed, and then we have a responsibility to get them out to vote, right? So from the jump, that's voter education, it's voter turnout and registration, and then it's also having community events and networking opportunities to kind of revitalize that energy and connect people so that they have that resource and they have that information.
And how do you plan to kind of reach out to people who need to talk to kind of either constituents or just more higher up people in the party who maybe have been abandoning this area, or maybe that people felt abandoned by it? How do you plan to reach out to them?
Right, absolutely. I think we've already seen the fact that the Carlisle Area Democratic Committee and just Carlisle in general attracts attention from these larger state party leaders. And that's because we have the funding and the voters and the mobilization. So it's just turning that up and giving these candidates, especially ones currently running for office or running for re-election, the opportunity to come here. So that means having events, having speaker opportunities, but also making it something that's appealing for these candidates to come out.
So if I'm kind of looking at this from the outside, right, mm-hmm. I might see this and be like, well, the governor or the president's not on the ballot. So what would you tell to somebody to why they should get involved now in 2025?
Right, yeah. And I argue every election counts. especially local elections. So, for example, we have the school board race coming. So, the very education system here in Carlisle is up for grabs. And the borough council is having elections, as are, some of these judge retention things. Those are big changes and big issues that actually impact your day-to-day life here in Carlisle. But, that's not enough. And you can also think about this as kind of a building period. Democrats, we're not wringing our hands, we're rolling up our sleeves here. And so right around the corner is a huge election. The governor, midterms, these are huge issues. And if you want to be involved, if you want to have a say, and you want to get your community to flip blue and change for the better, then now is the opportunity to get your foot in the door, have your voice heard, speak up, and serve that community.
This sounds like an amazing organization, and for somebody watching, I guess they want to know, how can they get involved?
Right, thank you, and I do hope people get involved. So the first one is that we have a website, so carlislepadems.org. On that very website, you have information on how to donate to our organization. You can sign up for a newsletter where we send out information about events we're having, people, changes, voter information, the works, right? So sign up for that newsletter if you're curious about what's happening. And there's an option to volunteer right there on the website. So any of the things you're interested in serving, you can do there. Furthermore, you can get information from our social media. We have a Facebook, we have an Instagram. So those are all great ways you can kind of get plugged into our organization.
It sounds like we got a lot coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to help flip Cumberland County blue, and in order to help strengthen Carlisle, what do you guys need?
So we can always use more volunteers, more donations, people coming to events, getting the word out. In particular right now, actually specifically, we have 2 positions on our executive committee that we're looking for help for. So we're looking for a vice chair, and we're also looking for someone to come and fill the committee position of candidate recruitment. So both of those, we're very interested in volunteers. If you want to help out, you can contact me, or you can reach us on the website. Also, just generally, if you're interested in serving in a committee, and in that capacity, that's always something we're looking for. The more voices and the more people at the table, the better. And then lastly, show up to the events, get the word out, get energized. We have a pretty big fundraiser coming up on Monday, September 8th, so just right around the corner. Tell your neighbors, show up to that, support us in that capacity. And we're really looking forward to the future and hopefully, riding the blue wave.
Well, I'm sure looking forward to all this. I think the event that's happening on the 8th is going to be absolutely wonderful. And I know myself be getting involved, and I hope others get involved as well. Thank you. This has been a wonderful conversation.
Thanks, Sam.